Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. Now, this is the IBFP's Breaking News podcast. Now, basically, we're just going to dig right into all the top news topics of the week. Other topics that we typically are not able to cover in their totality, so we're just going to break it down and get them right into them. The first topic that we're going to get into is Dimitri Bivol stating that he has a desire to move down to super middleweight, become a two-division WBA world champion by fighting Callum Smith. Now, Dimitri Bivol has also stated that he wants to fight Saul Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds. Dimitri Bivol is probably wanting to fight Callum Smith for a huge payday, for a huge fight, and that makes a lot of sense. Bivol is not a huge guy for 175 pounds, and moving down to fight Callum Smith in a potential Canelo fight would be huge for him, and that's one of the main reasons why he signed with DAZN, so I can totally understand that. Another big topic of the week that we haven't really gotten able to cover is Triple G. He signed a 6-fight deal, which you'll see him fight on DAZN in the U.S. It looks like his scheduled return date is for June 8th or 16th. An announcement of all of this expected this coming Monday. This is according to ESPN and the Ring magazine. Now, the interesting thing about this with Gennady Golovkin is we don't know who his opponent will be, his first opponent. It may be a tune-up opponent. It may be... and I think more likely it will be. I don't think it will be a champion. I don't think it'll be a Demetrius Andre. I don't think it'll be, anyone like that. So I do think that his first fight would be probably a tune-up, and then the second fight will probably be a much bigger, better fight, a title fight. So maybe a Demetrius Andre. Maybe he'll fight at a higher weight, but more than likely he'll be fighting at 160 pounds. And there's a lot of speculation that he's going to rematch Canelo Alvarez at 160 pounds in September. Canelo Alvarez has already stated that he plans on fighting 3 times this year, so that's going to be a very interesting turn of events and breakdown. I think Triple G, his best option is DAZN because he has so many potential fights. He has a rematch with Danny Jacobs, which I think is a 50-50 fight. I think, even though I'd give the edge to Danny Jacobs, I just need to see how Golovkin looks after this Canelo fight. He's had this layoff. He had this very hard fight with Canelo. I need to see Golovkin come back, and I need to see how he performs, and I need to see him against different types of styles to see if he can match up with pure boxers, because he struggled with Danny Jacobs and Canelo Alvarez. Regardless of how you saw the fight, you've seen him struggle at times, and that's something that he needs to fix and work on, his adjustments when it comes to those type of fighters. Another fighter that we got to cover is Deontay Wilder. Now, as we all know that he's meeting with DAZN, there's a lot of talks going about DAZN. This is a direct quote from Deontay Wilder. We will be one champion, one face, one name, and it might be soon. You'll get Wilder versus Joshua show. I love Showtime, but this is not farewell. It's only goodbye for a little bit. I'm going to hear them out first and foremost. Now, if that's his statement, and that's his direct quote, and this is all according to Michael Benson, I'll say it like this. Deontay Wilder had an opportunity to face Anthony Joshua, but he chose a rematch with Tyson Fury. That's going to eventually happen anyway. A rematch should never be priority over becoming undisputed world champion. But we understand why he was choosing Tyson Fury, because it was 2 reasons. One, he didn't want to fight Anthony Joshua's risk reward. If he gets knocked out by Anthony Joshua, that's it for him. He at this point he's a paper champion, because we all know that he lost to Tyson Fury, and the Tyson Fury rematch should not have been made priority, but he made it priority. So we just have to be honest and unbiased when we break all this down and be real about it. I think at this point, Deontay Wilder, and if he does sign with DAZN, if he does lock into DAZN, and if he does move over, then that is something that Deontay Wilder needs to do. Is he needs to fight better competition. Fighting a Dominic Brazil is not sufficient. And that's not sufficient. No one wants to see that. And the fact that the WBC mandated Dominic Brazil to be as mandatory right now when they didn't mandate it before, because they wouldn't allow the Tyson Fury rematch, that lets me know that they're allowing Wilder to do whatever he wants with their belt. That lets me know that they're allowing Deontay Wilder to do whatever he wants with the organization. The WBC appears to be a very corrupt organization, which is allowing Wilder to do whatever he wants. Another thing is Deontay Wilder has called out Tony Bellew. Now, if you look at Tony Bellew's comments the other day, Tony Bellew came out and stated that, Deontay Wilder is the least technically gifted heavyweight champion to ever exist because, his fundamentals are bad. And Deontay Wilder basically called him a bitch and stated he'd be willing to move down and fight him at a catchweight so he can give him a beating on principle. Now, I find that funny that Deontay Wilder wants to move down and fight a smaller Tony Bellew, on principle. But let's look at the principle of it. Why would you need to move down in weight and fight a smaller Tony Bellew when everything that Tony Bellew said was accurate and correct? He is the worst fundamentally sound heavyweight that ever existed. That doesn't mean that he was the absolute worst heavyweight. He was the worst fundamental heavyweight because he doesn't have a pure boxing style. That is what he meant. That is what he said, and that's absolutely correct. So the fact that you want to move down in weight and fight a smaller guy over that shows his true character. It shows the fact that, instead of facing a Dillian White who's been calling him out, you want to fight a small Tony Bellew that's already retired. Come on. That's disgusting. And you expect better from Deontay Wilder than to do that, But let's just keep going. Vasyl Lomachenko has came out and stated that Gervonta Davis and Floyd Mayweather, this is a direct quote from Vasyl Lomachenko, according to Michael Benson, they are businessmen. They're not athletes. They're making money. I'm an athlete, and I want to fight with the top fighters for history, for my history, and for boxing history. Now, I like Vasyl Lomachenko. He's an elite fighter. He's pound for pound. He's one of the best fighters in the world. And he's absolutely right in this statement is that, Gervonta Davis and Floyd Mayweather, these guys are just going for money. They're not trying to be the best in the sport. They're not trying to do anything great in the sport. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is managing Gervonta Tank Davis' career in the wrong way. He should be fighting a Vasyl Lomachenko. That's who people want to see Tank Davis fight. We want to see Tank Davis fight the best instead of small guys coming up in weight. We don't want to see Tank Davis fighting these guys. We want to see Tank Davis fight true competition. We think Tank Davis versus Vasyl Lomachenko would be a great fight. But at the end of the day, Vasyl Lomachenko is hardly in a place to just continuously criticize them when he himself avoided Manny Pacquiao. So a lot of people like to avoid that too, and that left a bad taste in my mouth with Vasyl Lomachenko. And I like Vasyl Lomachenko, but the fact that Lomachenko said he wouldn't get credit for fighting Manny Pacquiao when Manny Pacquiao still has juice. Manny Pacquiao still is a good fighter. Manny Pacquiao still a challenge for anyone. And I think that would have showed us a lot about who Vasyl Lomachenko is. And the fact that he turned down a Manny Pacquiao fight over an absurd reason, saying he wouldn't get credit when we all know he would. Now, Manny Pacquiao may not be in his prime, but he's still a hell of an opponent to have on your resume. He's still a hell of an opponent to beat, and he's still a hard guy to beat. Now, the fact that he said he wouldn't get credit, though, is what's bothering me when you fought a small Guillermo Rigo. So you said you wouldn't get credit, but you fought him anyway because you had all these advantages over him. So now against Manny Pacquiao, where you may be at certain disadvantages, you say you wouldn't get credit for it and you turn down the fight. That's what we have to call hypocrisy. That's what I don't like about what Vasyl Lomachenko did in that aspect, because I feel like he should have took the Manny Pacquiao fight. That should have been a fight that should have been on the table. That should have been a fight that he should have took right off the bat, because there's really no excuse for it. There's no excuse whatsoever for him not taking the Manny Pacquiao fight. I think that's a fight that should have been made. I think that's a fight that had to have been made, because at the end of the day, if we're being honest and unbiased, Vasyl Lomachenko has to get a big fight. He's in need of a huge fight, and there's really no excuse for it at this point in time. Because, we need to see the best from Vasyl Lomachenko, and fighting the best is the only way that we'll be able to get that. Point blank, period. Now, let's just keep going with some other boxing news that we need to get into. Now, this is regards to Shawn Showtime Porter. Now, Shawn Porter's really disappointed me by not making weight for the Udenis Ugas fight initially. Yes, he made weight eventually, but he came in overweight. He had a few hours to get down, and he got down. But this shows me a problem with Shawn Porter, because at the end of the day, Shawn Porter, we all know that Shawn Porter initially fought at 160 pounds when he fought in the amateurs. But at the end of the day, Shawn Porter is too small in stature to fight at 160 pounds. Those guys would have massive size and reach advantage over Shawn Porter. It just wouldn't be a good look for Shawn. So I can understand that. I didn't even know if fighting at 154 pounds is good for him. But at the end of the day, for Shawn Showtime Porter, what he honestly needs to do is he needs to step up. He really needs to step up. And what I mean by step up is he needs to take better care of his body, his training, because there's no reason that he needs to come into a fight and, the day before a fight, and you're barely on weight. That shows a lack of discipline, a lack of focus, and a lack of seriousness, because you shouldn't be cutting weight this close to the weigh-in. There's just no excuse for that. There's been a lot of speculation of Shawn Porter and his dad, Kenny Porter, not fight. May not be working together, but at the end of the day, that may be what's best, because if that's the reason why you're not making weight, that's something that has to be looked at and taken seriously. But let's just keep going. Now, Maurice Hooker, From my understanding, that he had an issue making weight at 140 pounds as well. That shows a lack of discipline, and that's something that has to be taken into account. Maurice Hooker fights at 140 pounds. He's a world champion there, and this could put his title in jeopardy. Maurice Hooker stands at 5'11", which is really, really tall for a 140 pound weight class. So that's an interesting effect of that too. So I can understand why his frame would make it much harder to be able to make weight easier. But let's keep going to another topic. Shawn Porter has already came out and stated that Errol Spence Jr., Manny Pacquiao, or Keith Thurman is the goal for his next fight. So when you say Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao, or Keith Thurman, I think we all know who Shawn Porter is looking to fight right away, and that's going to be Manny Pacquiao. I've seen him mention Manny Pacquiao many times, and if he doesn't get Pacquiao, he's going to go for Thurman, because those are the two most logical fights for Shawn Porter. I think that Errol Spence fight is not a fight that he truly wants, because he didn't ever seem to really want to pursue that fight, go after that, or be great. Instead, he allowed Mikey Garcia to move up 2 weight classes to take that spot and fight, Errol Spence Jr. And the fact that Errol Spence Jr. is not fighting Terrence Crawford is a problem. The fact that these guys are all playing duck, duck, goose, except for Terrence Crawford, except for Mikey Garcia, is pathetic. Because, Mikey Garcia and Terrence Crawford are the only 2 fighters that I see in the 147-pound weight class that are willing to fight anyone and everyone all the time. And that's being honest and unbiased. Now, we just have to break into some more. Joseph Parker came out and stated that he hopes Jarrell Miller pulls it off against Anthony Joshua. That shows that he's still bitter about his loss to Anthony Joshua. So when you hear guys say things like that, they're feeling some kind of way. At the end of the day, we have to be honest and unbiased, and we just got to be real about the situation. At the end of the day, these things have to be addressed. When you look at Roy Jones Jr., he's coming back for another fight. And I think that's bad for him, because at this point in his career, he's already been stopped. I just don't think that that's a good look for Roy. But once again, unbiased as always, part 1 of Boxing News with the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.